What's the name of this wine?
Conegliano Valdobbiadene.
The right name is Conegliano Valdobbiadene.
Welcome to the first course offered by the Conegliano Valdobbiadene Academy. A course designed for all those who want to improve their knowledge of the characteristics that make this denomination unique and of superior quality. In this lesson, we will discover the three key factors that are responsible for the superior quality of Conegliano Valdobbiadene: nature, history and culture. We will then find out about the characteristics and production method of Conegliano Valdobbiadene. And finally, we will share with you how to enjoy Conegliano Valdobbiadene Prosecco Superiore and how best to match it with food. Today's teachers are Giancarlo Vettorello, Director of the Conegliano Valdobbiadene Producers Consortium; Filippo Taglietti, Technical Director of the Consortium; Aurora Endrici, Wine Educator;
La dottoressa
Deborah Franceschi, in charge of the University Chemistry and Sensorial Analysis Laboratory; and Simone Vincenzi, University Researcher, both of whom are based in Conegliano.
Prosecco Superiore comes from Conegliano Valdobbiadene, a hilly area in the northeast of Italy, just 50 kilometers from Venice. Its superior quality is guaranteed by Italian law with the DOCG, Denominazione di Origine Controllata e Garantita designation, the highest quality status attributed to Italy's historic denominations. The production of Prosecco is carried out according to two sets of regulations, that of the DOC and that of the DOCG. These rules govern the cultivation of the grapes, their fermentation and the subsequent natural Prix de Mousse. Look at this pyramid. At its base we find Prosecco, an Italian white wine known to consumers all over the world, produced in the DOC zone that includes 9 Italian provinces in the Veneto and Friuli Venezia Giulia regions. In the heart of this large denomination between Venice and the Dolomites are the famous and historic hills of Conegliano Valdobbiadene, the best known area of origin where Prosecco is superiore. The flagship of the DOCG is Cartizze, a small but top-quality sub-zone of only 107 hectares. 3 elements determine the superior quality of Conegliano Valdobbiadene Prosecco Superiore. Its terroir, unique in terms of its microclimate and the composition of its soils. Its history, which began well over 2 centuries ago, with the foundation in 1876 here in Conegliano of Italy's first school of enology. Its culture, which is expressed in each of the processes and production methods we still use today.
How can one recognize the difference in a Conegliano Valdobbiadene? We start off with the color, a really beautiful and lively color with a lovely effervescence or perlage. This element then serves to enhance 3 important aspects on the nose. Fragrances of flowers, of fruit, of ripe fruit that are always very elegant. There are scents of white flowers, of wisteria in particular, and sometimes also hints of fruits such as peaches and apricots, as well as tropical notes, and a faint citrus tone lying in the background of the nose of one's glass of Conegliano Valdobbiadene. These evident notes of fruit, flowers and citrus fruits are given to the wine by the grapes that grow in this unique terroir, which are characterized by a very strong tanginess that we then find in the taste of the wine itself. This tanginess gives the wine great liveliness thanks to its excellent balance of acids and sugars. The minerality of a Conegliano Valdobbiadene results from the soil and the mineral richness left by the sea that thousands of years ago covered the hills of this beautiful area.
As we have said, the prime factor that makes Conegliano Valdobbiadene superior is the terroir. Here, nature, generous due to the microclimate, the characteristics of the soils and the exposure of the vineyards, makes Conegliano Valdobbiadene superior thanks to the culture of vine cultivation, which has its roots in the history that wine has always had in this region. Quality stems from the very moment the grapes, the fruit that makes this product so excellent, are harvested. The Conegliano Valdobbiadene DOCG identifies the Prosecco Superiore that comes from vineyards in the 15 historic communes, lying between 50 and 500 meters above sea level and occupying south-facing hillsides. Conegliano Valdobbiadene is produced from a minimum of 85% grapes of the Glera variety, together with a maximum of 15% of traditional indigenous varieties like Verdiso, Bianchetta, Pereira and Glera Lunga, and international cultivars such as the Pinots and Chardonnay. With regard to the characteristics of the area, the vines are tended entirely by hand because of the rugged nature of the environment, a factor that also makes it very attractive indeed. The gradient of the slopes can even be as high as 70%. For this reason, we talk about a handcrafted wine. Each hectare of vineyard calls for up to 600 hours work that truly expresses the Italian art of vine growing. As regards the microclimate, all of these traditional indigenous varieties express themselves at their best in these hills because of the long but not excessively cold winters, hot yet breezy summers with periodic thunderstorms and long mild autumns. In order to conserve their area, the growers have decided to adopt a self-regulatory code so as to make their viticulture increasingly ecological, showing respect for both man and the environment, and preserving the biodiversity of the vineyards and hillsides.
What makes this wine unique is not only the grapes and the zone, but also the production method used in this area, which is part and parcel of our culture and of our history. The process begins with vinification, that is to say with pressing and the settling of the must. The natural yeasts added to the must, the grape juice, set off and carry out the alcoholic fermentation which takes place in these tanks. At the end of this we obtain our base wine, the starting point for making a sparkling wine.
And
it is at this very point that Conegliano Valdobbiadene Prosecco Superiore begins the transformation process that makes it so special. This method is entirely Italian in conception and calls for a second fermentation in pressurized tanks known as autoclaves, like these, in which the base wine is introduced together with yeasts and sugar. This method has been perfected over time and adapted to this type of wine to the extent that today one can talk about a Conegliano Valdobbiadene method.
The Conegliano Valdobbiadene method differs technically from the so-called classic method for the simple reason that it calls for re-fermentation in pressurized tanks, whereas in the classic method this takes place in bottle for several months or even years. The method of re-fermenting in autoclaves is the best for maintaining the primary aromas, those that come directly from the grapes, which are characteristic of Conegliano Valdobbiadene. These aromas remind one of yellow-skinned apples and white flowers. Conegliano Valdobbiadene has a very distinctive taste, and to enjoy it at its best, it should be served in a suitable glass. A tulip-shaped one, or even better, Riedel's Prosecco glass, specially designed for this wine. The ideal serving temperature is between 6 and 10 degrees centigrade. In order to express all of its typical aromatic qualities, the wine should be drunk at between 6 and 18 months after the harvest, and it should be stored in a cellar at between 15 and 20 degrees centigrade, so that its ripe fruity notes can evolve. Conegliano Valdobbiadene goes well with light fish and seafood dishes, pulses, creamy cheeses, cold cuts, white meats and even cakes. Extra dry, in particular, is perfect as an aperitif. Brut is ideal throughout a meal, and the dry style makes an excellent complement for cakes and tarts. Conegliano Valdobbiadene is a traditional local wine, but one with a very cosmopolitan appeal. Thanks to its well-balanced taste and the elegance and finesse of its bouquet, it brings out the best in a whole variety of international cuisines, especially those that feature fish, a light spiciness, pasta dishes and delicately flavoured soups. At the end of this lesson, we now know the essential features of Conegliano Valdobbiadene, its unique characteristics, where it is produced, its method of production, how to enjoy it, and the perfect food matches for it. All that remains is for you to taste the difference.